The second we pull into the roundabout, it's the first exit to go up where we lived. He was just going up, taking the exit, and my body pushed. I literally pushed. And it was so scary to me. I freaked. I was like, no, go back, go back. So he just cuts off the person who's there, like, sorry. Cuts him off, said, oh my God, I just pushed. You need to go home now. Call somebody. So I was freaking out. 'Cause I'm like, oh my God, this baby is, I'm pushing, what the heck? So I was so afraid at that point that I'm like, oh my God, this is not gonna work out at all. This baby is gonna be born in the car. Thankfully, he did not get up on the highway and the baby wasn't born on the highway. So he just quickly went to the gas station, which was a different exit because he didn't know what to do. And he's like, let me start dialing the midwife and I'll drive home. And I was like, no, you drive home now. So he's like pulling into the gas station, calling the midwives, going back, and he's like, my wife just pushed, we're not gonna make it to the hospital, help me out. They're like, okay, we're calling the ambulance right now, go back home and relax. She's like, it'll be fine, the ambulance will get there. So once we heard that, we're like, oh, okay, you know, we'll be fine. But I was like trying to fight it. I'm like, oh my God, don't push, stop doing it. And my body kept like giving these pushes and I was really trying to fight them. I was really fighting them. I think 450 is when my body pushed, because I have it in my phone because I kept trying, like, oh my God, like I dropped my phone. So at 450, yeah. And then we drove home and I had, maybe my body tried to push like once in the car, but I was like, nope, no, you're not gonna do this. No. And went back home, and the second he pulls the car into the driveway, I pushed and my water broke. Like just popped like everywhere. My water completely broke. I freaked out. I don't remember taking the keys. I do not remember unlocking the door. I don't remember, but I remember running up the stairs. I literally stripped naked on the stairs and ran up. Like I just up to the top of the stairs. I was wearing black leggings from H&M at the time. And just a t-shirt, and like when my waters broke, it didn't get in the car at all. It just like stayed in my leggings, because your water, it's not like water, it's thicker than that. It's like thicker. And I got in the tub. So Alvin comes in and he's like, oh my God, I'm completely naked in the tub, freaking out, like, oh my God, babe, this is happening way too fast. So we got the midwife on the phone and she's talking to me and she's like, you need to go downstairs, Alvin, and you need to open the door for the paramedics, so when they get there they know where to go and they can just come straight in. Well, we have 2 cats, so Alvin had to run around the house, find the cats, and put them in the bedroom. He got one of our cats, threw it in the bedroom, couldn't find the other one. He was like, no. So while he's doing this, I'm in the bathroom going, oh my God, like so angry with him, but at the time I was also laughing in my head, like, you can't find the cat, so stupid. And my body was like going like, and all of a sudden I realized like I'm actually pushing and I can't stop it, because at the time I said every time my body would go to push, I would fight it so hard, just like, no, you're not going to do this, you're not going to push. And I was yelling no at the top of my lungs. My neighbor was like afraid and she was like, I should have come over. I'm like, you should have come over. Oh my God, I would have felt so much better having anyone there who has had a baby before. Anyone, not just us, because my fear was not having a baby at home. That wasn't a problem for me. My worry was, what if something goes wrong? We have no medical training. If there's something wrong with the baby, we can't do anything. If something wrong with me, we can't do anything. And that was terrifying for me, because I knew that the ambulance was not going to make it, because she told us, she's like, it is rush hour. They're not going to make it. And so I kept telling her, I was like, this is not going to happen. And I'm like, I told her, I said, I'm not going to do this alone. And she's like, I think you're going to have to, dear. So sweet on the phone. So reassuring. And I wasn't even listening to her. I was like, forget her. Pacing back and forth in the bathtub, and Alvin, she's telling Alvin, put a towel underneath Trista, have towels ready because it's gonna get messy. Okay. And then I remember pushing, and I knew that you could see her head. Like I had held it, like I think this is the push that her head should have come out at, but I held it in. So you could only see like a little bit of her head. And I knew that you could see it, but I was squatting in the tub. So the midwife says to Alvin, can you see the head? And Alvin's like, no. I was so angry with him for saying no, because then I had to stand up and show him that you could see the head. I was so angry. I was so angry at that point, but it's not his fault, you know? And so he's like, yeah, I see it. Yeah, I see it. So she's like, okay, the next push, the baby's head's gonna come out, and then she's gonna do restitution and turn, and then the next push, the baby's body will come out. So just catch the baby's body and put it up on Trista. Okay, great, everything's fine. Well, the next push, the whole Emeline, the whole of Emeline came out all at once. Entire baby, boom, like a rocket. And Alvin just slammed her onto my chest, like, poof. And I remember sitting there thinking, like we would just looked at each other like, oh my God, I just had a baby, like, oh my God. And she was bright red like a lobster and screaming at the top of her lungs. So we were just like, oh, thank God. And I remember thinking, oh my God. And the midwife's like, okay, you did it, everything's fine. She wrote down time of birth, which was 5:14 in the evening. So basically, I had only really been pushing for like 10 minutes. Because I was fighting it, and by the time we got back into the house, it was like 5 o'clock. So I don't know, I pushed for maybe, no, 5:12? I don't know when she was born, somewhere around 5:10. And it was just the most insane thing ever. It was just insane. And we had a baby at home without the ambulance, without the midwife, and it was fine. I finally managed to turn sideways into the bathtub, and the midwife says to Alvin on the phone, she's like, how much blood is there? And Alvin was just like, a lot. There's a lot. She's like, okay, well, tell me, is it like a cup? Could you feel a pot? What could you feel? And Alvin's like, a cup. Like a cup. And she's like, oh, that's nothing, it's totally normal, everything's fine then. And Alvin just like, oh my God. So Alvin was the epitome of calm when this was going on. He was like, all business. Okay, everything's gonna be fine, fantastic. And that's amazing because Alvin hates blood and gore. He just doesn't like it. He doesn't want to look at it. He's not gonna watch it. He doesn't like it. I mean, I totally understand why a lot of people don't like it. He's one of those people. So, whereas me, I'm fine. But for him, that was a huge deal. And then I remember like the paramedics storming up the stairs and they're like, oh, the baby's born, everything's great. They checked me over. The paramedic cut the cord and he left it long so Alvin could cut it later if he wanted to. Because he asked Alvin, he's like, do you want to cut the cord? And Alvin's like, no, I'm okay. Because he had just done so much. And I was just sitting there with a screaming baby, not knowing what to do because she wouldn't stop howling. And I'm like in shock myself because of what just happened. Because everything was fine until we realized the ambulance is not going to make it and the midwife isn't going to make it. And she told me that. She's like, you have to just let it happen. They're not going to get there. You're going to be fine. But at the time, all you can think of is, oh my God, what if something goes wrong? There is no one here who knows what to do. Scary. But anyway, so I was happy that everything was fine. So eventually the midwife came and, I had to push out the placenta. I didn't want to. I was like, no, I don't want, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. And he's like, it's fine, it's nothing. He's like, you just had a baby, you're not even gonna notice. And I don't remember feeling the contractions to push the placenta out. So basically I just tried to push it out. He was like, are you really afraid? And I was like, yeah. Well, the paramedics were fantastic. I wish I knew their names because I would thank them again, but I didn't. I don't know their names, but they were amazing. And he's like, oh, my wife's a midwife. So this for him was great. He was like, no, I love it. His wife's a midwife, so he cut the cord and he was really so sweet. And the other guy was great. He was like making sure Alvin was okay, I think, and, you know, checking other stuff. And so I think I just tried to push the placenta out. And he's like, okay, you're gonna have to push again because it's not all the way out. And that freaked me out. He's like, no, it's fine. We just have to push again. So I pushed it out and he's like, okay. So he took it out and he put it over to the side, I think. And then he's like, that's fine. Like, you're not bleeding. Everything looks good. But he's like, the midwife has to check you out. So they had to wait. And their shift had ended at 5. So these guys got a call like 10 minutes before their shift ended that a baby was being born. They were like going crazy down the back roads trying to get to the house on time, and so they were basically sitting at the house not getting paid for it or just off of their shift. It was after their shift was over. And so they were fantastic about that, and they didn't seem irritated at all. They were like, no, this is what we do, you know. And so finally, I think the midwife came and she checked me over, and I did have a small tear, which I was pretty impressed with because I thought, I'm trying to hold this baby in so much, and I was trying to prevent the baby from coming so much. I was keeping my legs closed, you know, that I thought it was going to be worse than that. So that was okay with me, but the midwife, she put me in the bed, she checked me, checked the baby. Emeline got 10, 10, 10 on the score, the APGAR score they give him every time. And like the midwife over the phone had given her a 10 as well because she could hear her and we described her and that sort of thing. And so she was a champ, totally fine. Finally stopped crying. The midwife got her to breastfeed twice. And it's really funny how they do it. They basically just slam the baby on your boob. She's like, I know that seems a bit hard, but don't worry, it's normal. Like, it's got to be done that way. You're like, super hard. And she was fine. And I remember she had to call because Emeline was very small. She was 5 pounds 11 ounces, which I don't think is that small really, but she was almost full term. She was 39 weeks and a couple days. So she was almost full term. We knew this was going to be like that. But I remember her having to make the decision. She's like, the ambulance is here now. She called the hospital and she said, does this baby need to come in because she is so small? Because sometimes small babies have trouble regulating their temperature or something else maybe they have difficulty with. And she said, well, she called the hospital and she was like, I think you can stay. But the hospital said, you need to bring the baby in because she is really small and we should see her overnight just to make sure everything's okay. So she's like, it's ultimately your decision, but the ambulance is here now. And you can either wait and drive in yourself, or we can just go now, but you will have to spend the night in the hospital. Alvin and I were still in shock. That we were literally in shock still at that point. And we just thought, okay, I guess, what do we do? Like, what do we do? We were under pressure too, because these guys are not working, basically. That's off the clock. So we just thought, okay, you know what, whatever, we'll go to the hospital. I didn't get dressed. I put on a tiny button-up shirt. I did not put on, I think I put on underwear. I do. So she couldn't stitch me up at home. That's the other thing that was kind of sucky. So I put on like my underwear with a maternity pad. We left the mess at the house and Alvin had to drive the car behind the ambulance and I had to go in the ambulance. We dressed Emeline, Alvin dressed Emeline for the first time. And I was really sad because it was so heartbreaking for me. I sat in the ambulance, couldn't sit. It was so awful. In the front, like there's the people and then there's a seat that you sit in and then the midwife was there with Emeline in the back and Emeline was in her car seat and she cried and it was heartbreaking for me. It was the worst thing I could feel at that point because she was crying and she wasn't with me and she was alone in her car seat like less than an hour after she was born. So I hated that. I regret it so much to this day. But I regret going to the hospital in that point because we didn't need to go. So it was awful for me. She stopped crying, went to bed. That was fine. And then the ambulance helped me out. We went into the hospital and then, you know, they checked me into the ward. And by this point, I had to go downstairs to like the labor ward and they had to stitch me up, but they couldn't find a doctor to do it. And the midwife had to go because she was a community midwife. So there was no one to stitch me up. Finally got a student to do it like 6 hours later. General anesthesia or anesthetic doesn't work on my body. It does not work for me. Some people it's just how it is. So I had to be stitched up like 5 to 6 hours after the baby was born. That's how long we were waiting. Okay. It was the most awful thing in the entire world. It was so bad. All the hormones that were in my body that would have like prevented me from feeling any pain, gone. It was horrible. It was so much worse than having a baby. It was so much worse than labor. It was horrible. I had a midwife on one side of me, a nurse on the other, holding on to my arm saying, it's okay, while I sat there and cried, while Alvin held Emeline who was sleeping. It was horrific. It was awful. If you're gonna have a baby, try to get your midwife to help it so you don't tear. Because if you don't, oh my god. So, yeah, that's really rough. I was not a fan. So after that, we got tea and toast. The midwife came, she goes, she got some tea and toast. And Alvin and I were like, yes, please, oh my god. And so we had black tea with milk and just Warburton's like wheat toast with butter and strawberry jam. And it was the best meal I've ever had in my whole life. It was fantastic. Got to take a shower after that. The shower was insanely difficult for me to take. I waddled down the hallway to one of the bathrooms. I couldn't breathe in there because it was so hot. I felt I could barely breathe. I felt like I could barely breathe. After you have a baby, breathing, you feel like you're kind of like you can't get a good breath. And you also have no more stability in your core at all. Like everything feels like jelly. You feel like, how am I even standing up right now? Because there's nothing there. Like there's no more midsection. You don't have abs anymore. And that was really tough. I was afraid to shower because I thought that the soap would sting. And I did have some blood all over me, so I really needed to shower. And I remember the first thing I did was I've always heard like horror stories about going to the bathroom after you have a baby. But I will tell you that I went to the bathroom, I went pee and I went both. Like I went everything. I went to the bathroom properly and I went number 1 and number 2 and it did not bother me at all. It didn't hurt. It was fine. It was normal, like totally fine. There was no problems. So don't be afraid about that because you'll probably be fine. You might not be, but I was fine. So that was, but learning to like, you can't wipe with paper, at least the front. Like if you go pee, so you have to like dab, splash some water. That was interesting. Took a shower. I felt like I was gonna die in there. I was so dizzy. It was horrible. It was the worst shower of my whole life. Padded back. Then we went up. They checked me in with Emeline in her little cot, and then Alvin had to go home, which was awful, you know, for me and for him. So he went home at midnight, texted me on my phone. You can have your phone if you've had a baby. So I did have my phone on, and he texted me that he was home and he cleaned up all the bloody mess, which was like 4 or 5 towels soaked in blood, all of this just blood and crap everywhere. He had, not crap, but like blood everywhere, and he had to clean the whole thing up. He's like, the cats were traumatized, and so he went to bed after that, feeling like crap, most likely because he was at home and I was in the hospital and he didn't get to spend a night with us and he knew how I felt about it, so that was sucky for him. and for me. It was awful because it was so hot in the hospital. I thought I couldn't breathe even because it was so hot. It was just so hot. And I didn't want to go to sleep even though I was really tired because I wanted to be with Emeline. And she kept waking up and she would kind of cry and I'd put her against my face or try and feed her. And they had her swaddled really nicely, but then I couldn't swaddle her and I called the nurse in to help me. And she was very angry that I even called her in for help. So I was like, forget everyone. You know, I don't want to talk to anyone. And I was afraid to sleep with her on my chest because I was afraid she was going to roll off. It was just not nice. I could barely move because I was in so much pain from the stitches. And then, so like getting her in and out of her little baby bed was really difficult. I had a really nice view of the parking lot in my room. So when Alvin came in that morning, just before visiting hours were ready to open, I saw the car pull up. I was like the happiest I've ever been. I could not stop smiling. I was so happy because now we can finally enjoy our baby together and he can be there. So he came and we just had to wait to be discharged. It was not fun to sit in the hospital. We didn't need to be there. The nurses were like, you don't need to be here. You shouldn't have come in. They were like, you shouldn't have come in because there are other people who really needed to be in here and not you because your baby is perfectly fine. She's a champion. We didn't even get seen by the pediatrician. I saw a midwife who just checked Emeline over real quick, make sure she could do all that stuff that a midwife would have done, and like she was able to do it, and the midwife's like, you know what, that's fine, let's go. So I think around 2:30 we were finally discharged. The pediatrician didn't even see us. He was just like, get out of this hospital now, you don't need to be here. We went home. It was beautiful, gorgeous day. It was gorgeous the day before she was born. It was gorgeous the day she was born. It was gorgeous the day after. And then we went home and we laid in the sun and we stayed in the bed. And the soup that I'd been making turned into a stew because we left it on. So it sat in the pan and became a stew, and Alvin did turn it off before we left the house. But throughout the whole having the baby, the soup was just on. So it became a stew. But that stew fed us for the whole week. It did. So it was fantastic that I made it. So that's that. That was my labor and delivery story. I wanted a natural birth. I really did. And I got the most natural birth I could have had. So I can't really complain. Emeline's here. She's happy. She's healthy. I'm happy and healthy. And so is Alvin. And we have all made it this far. So, you know, there's nothing really to complain about. So if you're having a baby, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Every birth is different. Every labor is different. And hopefully it goes well for you if you are pregnant and you're going to be having a baby. And just remember that your labor and delivery, it's your labor and delivery. Do it the way you want to as much as you can. If you want something, ask for it. If you want something there, just do it. Just bring whatever you want to the hospital. Even if people say it's stupid and you don't need it, just bring it. And don't be afraid to take control over what's happening, you know, what your surroundings are like. Don't be afraid of that because it's your situation, your labor, and why not make it as comfortable as you can. So thanks so much for watching today. I hope you guys have a really good Wednesday, and I will see you guys on Friday. Bye!